Narcissistic MIL. Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is slightly long, so I apologize in advance, and if you get through to the end, thank you so much for reading, and any advice would be much appreciated. I want to give some context first before going into this. I've known my now husband for over 2.5 years now, live in the USA, in our mid going on late 20s, married 1.5 years. During the period of getting to know him, I pretty much understood that my MIL is a person that needs to constantly be in control of her children and spouse. We are not the same ethnicity nor practice our religion the same, and so when my husband told his mother about us in regard to getting married to one another, she had been asking all these questions and was unhappy that he found someone like me because of these differences. However, religion-wise, there is no reason we cannot be together. Before marriage, at the time he lived with his parents and siblings, she would ask if she can speak to me on the phone, and I was anxious but determined to have a good bond with her and reassure her in regard to myself and my husband. She would be completely fine on the phone and act as though she is happy with me and our relationship, then have a change of heart with him and would put all her time into sabotaging our relationship, for example, by encouraging her friends to speak to my husband and try to convince him to leave me, as I am not the same as them, as I don't practice the religion the same as them, and neither am I the same ethnicity as them. She eventually gave the notion she had got over the differences. The first time the families met, my family had the same worries but didn't make an issue of the differences, as they believed my now husband is a good match for me. She did her most to sabotage and ruin the potential of us getting married, and she did this in front of my family and extended family, repeating the differences and that over her dead body will we be getting married. She mentioned I need to change to practice like them for her to even consider allowing us to be married. My family were so confused, as no one was to mention the differences and focus on moving forward with the marriage proposal. She made a complete scene by raising her voice at my family and crying, refusing to eat any food, and she did this whilst my husband was not in the room at the time, as she knew he would not have took that well. Granted, she did this act in front of him. We live in different states, and she was saying how I would have to live with them and that my husband would not be leaving his job or family for me, which I had never stated or wanted for him anyway, therefore didn't know where all this was coming from, and I had even said that to her. Once my husband saw the scene, he defended me and our relationship instantly, which I really did appreciate. However, his mother spoke down on him as well. My family bit their tongue the entire day due to not wanting to cause a scene or cause the potential of ruining anything on our part, and still gave her and the rest of my husband's family the utmost respect and treat them how guests should be treated. It was extremely disrespectful on her part, and is not how you act when coming for a marriage proposal for your son and paint out that you are extremely happy for him, all to sabotage and plot and plan to ruin the entire relationship. At one point I was sat near my husband, and my husband offered me tissues and water, and I could see her time and time again making faces at him or being envious towards him, acting like that towards me. Me and my husband were so confused and upset, as she gave the impression she was happy with us and would reiterate that to him, all for her to ruin the potential of us marrying when it mattered most. I would always mention how I don't believe his mother is truly happy with us, but he would always reassure me, hence I gave him the benefit of the doubt. My family told me I would not last a day at my in-laws if I was to marry my now husband, as she would exert that control as she does with the rest of her family members and condition me to become exactly the person she wants me to be. It's been a rough and emotional roller coaster, and lots of praying, as both families were now unhappy and against us being together, as my family constantly mentioned how his mother has that power and control over her whole family, and were worried of the consequences of me marrying my husband. My husband moved out after that, which his mother did not agree with or take well in the least, but he could no longer mentally deal with the ongoing battles in his house. His mother would constantly start arguments over us and wind him up. She would get his father involved, in which she would do her utmost best to pit him against my husband by saying that if he did not support her, then he should leave the household. All over not wanting us to be married? Crazy. She would put things into my husband's head of how if I did not move to the same state as them at the least, then to leave me and end our relationship, as it is bare minimum for me to do that, otherwise she would not be accepting whatsoever. We still kept fighting, and eventually the proposal was accepted. I am not even exaggerating how mentally, emotionally, and physically draining it had got, as my family were completely against it due to his mother's behavior, and he had a lot to deal with in regard to his mother, as she seems to be the one to exert the power and control and the say-so in their household. And my husband at one point was adamant to continue without her involvement because of the endless issues she had created. However, I wanted both parents and families' blessings, as I knew this would only cause more issues further down the line. We compromised a lot to make everyone happy so we would be able to get married. I am so grateful and thankful for my husband, as he has always kept me going when I have fell short in staying strong for us and vice versa. He has done his absolute best to always stay fighting for our relationship. I just want to state that my now MIL has always been the same before I continue further, and hand on heart, believe her behavior is all an act. During the period of the proposal being accepted, my now MIL did a complete 180 towards me and my family. She gave the notion she is happy with me. She played happy families and so on, and to be quite frank, I don't think anyone in my family believed it. However, gave her the benefit of the doubt, as they wanted me to be happy with my now husband. After marriage, yes, I had a very good idea of what my MIL was like, but seeing it myself has been crazy. I have done my best to continue to be a good daughter-in-law/sister-in-law. However, I will never believe my MIL is happy with me or our relationship because of her continued behavior, and because of how much sabotaging she did before we finalized the marriage proposal. We live a few minutes from my MIL, and we do our best to go and see my in-laws at least a couple of times every week. If for some reason we were not able to go, she would argue with my husband, continuously manipulate him on messages, saying how he has forgot about his own mother and family, and that all he cares about is spending time with me and being around me. Respectfully, I am his wife, and yes, your parents are important, but in a marriage your other half comes first and is priority because they are your responsibility. My husband does his absolute best to constantly please his mother, but as soon as we can't do something she has told us to do, if something doesn't go her way, she will become toxic towards him and manipulate him or guilt trip, call him a crazy amount of times, and send message after message of being manipulative towards him until she has got her way, and I have seen the way this has had an impact on his mental health. I believe she words things to cause a strain on our marriage, but I do not think she realizes that my husband is not weak and will not turn against me merely because of my MIL words. However, I'm scared that one day something may happen in which she will successfully turn him against me. Before we got married, she would call him several times within the day, and she even continues to do this now, and will do this to me also. We do our best to please her, as pleasing her pleases the rest of my in-laws, because if she isn't happy, then all hell will break loose. I remember one day we had not picked up her calls, even though we do every single day otherwise. She had made a point to my husband slightly before this that she would like a message from him every single day saying, "Hi, how are you? I love you," and so on. I can respect that as a mother, fair enough, and I have seen my husband make that conscious effort to do exactly that with her. The one day we were busy as married couples are, and he had been extremely tired and drained from working whilst even helping me out with our child after coming home. We did not pick up her calls, and between us both, she had left over 15+ missed calls. I can understand dropping her a quick message, but we had not even been looking at our phones as we had such a busy day as it was. My husband was bothered about this, as he makes effort to call her back if he is unable to answer in the moment and message her as well regardless of her behavior. He communicated to her he has his own family. He is married and is allowed to be busy and tired also. However, she was adamant. She wants him to make time at least once a day to message and call her. She made it all about her and did not want to understand where he was coming from, which is something she always does, and will manipulate the situation till things go her way, and she does this to the rest of her children as well. Every time we go over to my in-laws, my MIL will treat my husband like her partner, and it is disturbing and disgusting to say the least, as she will be excessive with her affection. I can understand a mother's love with their child, but this is a lot. I have even asked him was she like this before we got married, and he said no, which makes it clear she does it in front of me for show. I am not competing with you over my husband, ain't no way. I never ever say anything to her regardless of what she says, or how she makes him feel, as I know she will make me look like the bad one to the rest of her family by twisting my words and bringing on the waterworks. I keep it respectful and guard my peace. I have tried to be kind on endless occasions by bringing food to my in-laws, and there was one occasion I had not cooked the food as best as I should have, and genuinely was annoyed at myself afterwards, but my husband reassured me regardless. We end up seeing my in-laws at their house a few days after that, and my MIL is trying to call my husband to the kitchen. He didn't hear as he was busy in conversation. However, she ends up bringing out the pot of food she has cooked and continues to make an insult in her language about me to my husband, which I understood and she thought I didn't. She asked my husband, "Can you notice the difference in my food?" and stated that my husband eats raw food. After that, my energy switched. I was quiet and wasn't even speaking to my husband because I was full of anxiety and did not want to fold and get emotional and cause a scene. Hence, I tried to protect my peace. My MIL is then continuously saying to me, "Why aren't you eating?" and so on. My husband is quietly trying to ask me what's wrong, however leaves it after many attempts, which I did not feel good for doing, but wanted to communicate it once we got home. My MIL, before we leave, starts apologizing as I found out that my husband noticed instantly what she said wrong and spoke to her privately in regard once he had the chance. After that occasion, she calls me whilst he is working, saying to me that if need be I can always say anything to her, lol. So she had assumed I told on her to my husband and made him do that, which I didn't. My husband is simply very aware and knows right from wrong. I had a couple of miscarriages before having our child. However, my MIL continued to make everything about herself and could not have been more insensitive if she tried. She would reiterate, "Why have we not came to see her?" and so on. The crazy part is, as soon as we cannot do something her way, she will turn his sisters against him whom live at home with her, and they will take her side blindly without hearing his side and make him feel like he is lacking when my husband has always been good to his parents. We all fall short sometimes, but regardless of my MIL manipulation and toxicity, he continues to remain patient with her, yet his sisters will use her anxiety, depression, overthinking as an excuse when they do not realize she is trying to get everyone on her side. What about my husband's mental health? All that gets overlooked because he does not use it as a cry for attention? They mention that his parents made him who he is and would not be where he is without them. They mention how he has not done anything for them when my husband was the ones helping to pay the bills in the house, not them. They would refuse to help out, whereas my husband has always tried to make his mother happy in the best way and try to keep everyone else happy too. It is genuinely emotional incest on my MIL part because she will constantly make weird comments when speaking to him, will cry on the phone every time he tries to communicate something he doesn't like that she did, and she will constantly say about not wanting to lose him and make a scene. She moves like a crazy ex if he doesn't answer his phone, and moves like a love-sick puppy. She will threaten him by saying she will stop speaking to him if we decide we cannot go to see her. She will threaten that she will tell my parents how bad of a son he is, and she has done this in the past. However, my parents love my husband and would never think otherwise and know what her nature is like. My MIL simply cares to show off and look good to everyone, and that she is the only angel. She has tried to paint my parents to look bad to my husband, and thought she really did something when my husband knows better. I'm just tired and sick and disgusted by her, and she does this to others in her family as soon as she doesn't get her way, and in the same breath they continue to enable her narcissistic ways. I just want her to leave us alone and respect our marriage instead of being so involved and tell us what to do, and want to always know what we are doing. She does nice things and ruins it by acting like this, which makes me believe nothing is genuine and simply an act. She acts like she has done him a huge favor by letting us get married. She continuously asks him for money when she should go ask her own husband. She will never say how she really feels about me and acts hella sweet to my face, but will say things like, "Don't leave your religion because of her, me." When we are the same religion, I have never forced my beliefs on him and vice versa. We simply practice slightly differently, but this has never came between us. I have always been open-minded and respectful towards them all in regard to the way they practice. My husband is close to perfect in my eyes, and we have healthy communication and a healthy marriage, alhamdulillah, and Allahumma barik. And however, I am worried that my MIL will get her way continuously. I do not trust her one bit. I do my best to communicate to him how I feel without disrespecting his mother, as that is still his mother at the end of the day, and I know he would appreciate maintaining that relationship with her, which I can understand. I just pray I win $1 million and can move countries away from her never-mind states. I'm tired of her and just want peace for our child as well, to grow without a toxic grandparent in the mix. We live in our own place, however my MIL does not live far and will make any and every excuse to see us. If we make an excuse, all hell will break loose, and she will make us look like the bad ones. It is the same if we cannot go to see her. It is bare minimum for a parent to go the extra mile for their child. However, she counts all the things she has done for my husband, and even when it came to the wedding, she's been asking him for money back when me and my husband contributed towards a large portion of our wedding, and mainly my parents. Yes, there is no comparison, but to ask your child relentlessly for money that you happily made out you were giving towards the wedding is crazy. My parents have never. I genuinely do not understand why she acts like this. We have our own bills to pay, a child to feed, and maintain a roof above our heads. She will question him profusely about whether he can afford the bills and will mention if we need anything including money then to ask her. Yet she will use things against him and ask for that money back even after 1.5 years of us being married. We have low-key been struggling and living paycheck to paycheck. However, he will reassure her he can manage, but she will see that as he has thousands of dollars of money. My parents live in a whole different state, but my husband will take me as much as he can. It used to be once a month, but since our child it's been once every 3 lately, and I'm not even complaining because he does his best to make sure I can see my family when I can. Yet, my MIL will use this against him, saying he has more time for my family than his own. Where is the comparison? When we have literally done our best to make an effort to go and see her as much as possible. I'm just tired of it, and it is mental exhaustion dealing with it, and it breaks my heart seeing the impact it has on my husband when he does his best to communicate, and she will victimize and make him look at fault every time she doesn't get her way. We try to keep boundaries in place, but she continuously breaks them and forget even putting consequences in place for it when she victimizes herself to his 3 older sisters, and they go off on my husband, and I strongly believe she does this to maintain control which she has lost over my husband, hence, she always acting up. His sisters will listen to one side of the story and take her side no matter what. It's like my husband does not have a heart or isn't human, and they will continue to enable her behavior, which is why she thinks she is doing nothing wrong. My Phil doesn't get involved much, however, he is a quiet individual, and I have understood over the time I have known him that he would rather protect his peace, as they do not respect or listen to what he has to say either. I understand mentally not being in a good place, but to use that to your advantage to look like the angel in a situation, that's a cop-out. You don't use your mental health to treat others like that. My MIL will never apologize, and she moves on like it never happened. The list goes on. I feel she is unhappy and wants us to be just as unhappy. It is so bad to say this, but I just hope someone, even one person, can understand and give some advice that has actually worked for them.